It was one of those moments where I was like, okay, we are hearing this. This is the news. This is the final word. I do need a liver, and that's big news.
So you gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be, be.
You're the God of restoration, the one who brings salvation.
Alright, it's day 4. We just got here to the hospital, and it's first meeting is with a financial coordinator, talking through insurance and all that sort of stuff about transplant.
We found a Starbucks in the hospital. It feels like we are not in the hospital. It's amazing, except everybody around me is a doctor. So we're definitely still in the hospital, but it makes us feel like we're not. I just finished the barium swallow test.
Back against the table. So big deep breath in, blow it out. Another big deep breath in. Into the other study. Stay right there in that position. Okay. Cocktail. Don't drink just yet.
Wow, I've never felt such a heavy liquid in my life.
Yeah.
How is that physiologically possible?
It's a mineral.
Okay, that's crazy.
All right. So go ahead and get a mouthful. Hold it in your mouth. I'm going to count to 3, and you swallow on 3. 1, 2, 3. Good. Turn all the way and face the left. Here's the pillow. And lay the table down. Just relax at the table.
Whoa! I didn't know this was an amusement park.
Yeah.
Whoa!
It's a really bad carnival ride.
No, it's the best. It was, okay, I keep like shivering like when I think about it. Also, I'm just shivering in general, so I don't know if I'm like cold or having a like reaction, not like an allergic reaction, like my body's rejecting the barium that I just swallowed. And so I'm supposed to drink a lot of water and flush it out. It was fine. I did everything she said when she said it, so we didn't have to redo any of it, which was great. And it's just like getting ready to run to the next appointment. This was the first break we've had, so it's so nice to be able to sit down. But I don't. Next is the cardiothoracic surgeon. So that's the surgeon who will do the lung transplant portion. We already met with the abdominal surgeon 2 days ago or something.
But first, a sunshine break. We are thankful that Duke has some nice courtyards. How's that sunshine?
Amazing. This isn't really for you guys, but you're welcome to listen in if you want. This is for future us to remember. We're sitting out here in the sunshine, which feels amazing.
It's kind of hot.
And we're coming up with comedic coping methods for during the transplant surgery. And I said, okay, so we need to get you t-shirts for each section of the surgery. So when they come out and say, we made the first cut, which I specifically remember that when my sister was in surgery, they came out and said that. And so then his shirt will be like the first slice, be like, she's my home slice. Is that a thing?
You know, I don't know if you're using it correctly, but I think it's a thing.
And then Peter came up with the best one.
When they get the liver out, well, we're not getting t-shirts, but
yeah, we are. We happen to have a t-shirt company.
It'll say she's chopped liver.
because my liver got chopped. And then...
You don't laugh, you'll cry.
Yeah. And then,
We haven't come up with any
they're
others.
gonna take my gallbladder out. So what could that one be? You're the gall to my bladder.
Okay, we need to stop here.
No, we gotta come up with all of them. We gotta plan
okay.
it out. How about, oh, okay, I know. When they say the new lungs are in, then it's a breath of fresh air. I'm so smart.
You're so hilarious.
The sunshine is healing everything about everything. Yesterday was extremely difficult mentally, and the previous 2 days were extremely difficult physically. So today is like recovery, getting like financial stuff figured out, and yeah, it's all coming together. It's a process.
Next, sunbathing.
I told Peter that he should definitely come out here during the surgery. Sunshine is so good for you. So then it was time to meet with the cardiothoracic surgeon. So if you remember, on Tuesday we met with the liver transplant surgeon. That is the person who does the liver transplant portion of the surgery. The cardiothoracic is the portion who does the lung portion of the surgery.
And this was one of our last meetings with kind of the medical people in terms of transplant. We had another appointment on Friday, which you'll see tomorrow, but I feel like a lot of what the conversations that had been started throughout the week kind of came together in this meeting with the cardiothoracic surgeon.
I think that's a really good way of putting it. So the whole week we had been told, pretty sure you're gonna need a liver transplant. It looks like your liver will also need to be transplanted. You know, like these sorts of things throughout the week. So when we sat down with this cardiothoracic surgeon who, side note, was simply amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, mind-blowingly amazing and nice, kind, compassionate, amazing.
Yeah,
Brilliant surgeon.
It was, you know, it's overwhelming to talk about, you know, cutting Mary's chest open and transplanting it and what goes into that and all of that. And to have somebody who was so incredible and caring and
hopeful.
Yeah, and confident and
Yes.
passion. I think one of the things that we just loved about him was he was so passionate about what he does and helping people breathe. And so it was, in many ways, I felt like that was a gift at the end of, toward the end of our week, of exactly the kind of meeting that we needed.
Yeah. And so we sat down with him and he kind of said like, all right, where are you guys at in this whole thing? And I was like, here's my understanding. Throughout the week, the different specialists have said, we're pretty sure that you will need a liver. And he said, I can tell you 100% sure you do need a liver as well. And I've said this, or I don't know if I've said this in a video yet, but throughout the week there were no moments that felt like heart-wrenching, that felt like stop your breath. Like, there were no moments like that. This moment wasn't like that either, but it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, we are hearing this, this is the news, this is the final word, I do need a liver, and that's big news. But the surgeon who is telling me this has confidence and compassion and passion for this. And throughout our meeting with him, he talked more about the intricacies of doing multivisceral, which I learned that word during that meeting, multivisceral, which means multi-organ transplants, and some of the complexities within those type of transplants. So can you give a couple of the stats about lung and liver transplants?
Yeah, so it's pretty rare. So I think it's less than 15% of CF patients have liver disease. So that's a pretty small number when you think about it. There's 30,000 people with CF in the US. And so less than 15% have liver disease, and then less than 8% have cirrhosis of the liver like Mary has. So like you could, so we thought maybe Mary's liver disease is at a place where it would be okay for transplant.
Right.
And that was part of the reason for this whole week, was to figure out where her liver plays into the whole transplant conversation. Right. So it's a pretty small number of people. So it's a pretty rare surgery to do liver and lung transplant. There's
so you looked up the numbers on UNOS?
I looked
Is that
up
right?
the numbers on UNOS, and it's like there's been like 140 done.
Ever.
And Duke is the top hospital that has done the most of these, and I think they've done around 15.
So that's total ever. 15 liver and lung transplants. And before we went, we didn't realize how rare it was. And so when we started realizing the numbers and how few of these happen, it was kind of shocking. But at the same time, we knew as throughout the week, as it went on, we met the liver specialists, we met the lung specialists, and they were both confident. And so together, I'd call that a power team.
And they've only done a handful. And they, Duke does a lot of lung transplants. They do like 100 to 125-ish.
Per year.
And out of that, they do like 1 to 3 liver lung transplants. And
per year.
And so it's a limited amount of experience, but they've done it and they're confident in kind of how to work together with these two teams. And one of the things that I'm not sure if we've talked about this week is in some of our conversations with doctors, there was the realization that the liver and the lungs are in some ways competing organs when it comes to the operation and recovery.
Right.
So the liver wants to be well hydrated, and the lungs, they try to keep less hydrated and like keep you dehydrated.
So this is like right immediately post-op. That's when these two competing sides come into play. So
that was like shocking to find out, but then to hear that they've worked out, like they have a plan for that.
Yes.
So it was kind of shocking to learn that that's the case, and obviously doing multivisceral, multi-organ, it is riskier.
Right.
But that they've worked out how they do it, which organ goes first, and all of those details, and how to care for the organs after transplant. And so to hear their confidence and their passion for doing this was super comforting. So
I have so many things that I want to be sure to say. First of all, we didn't know going into this week if I was even a candidate for transplant. And if I was a candidate, would I need liver and lung? All of these things. What we learned was, yes, I'm a candidate, and yes, I need liver and lungs. So then, once we got to this meeting, he explained more about the process and that sort of thing. So, one of the questions was, is this all going to be during the same surgery? And yes, it is. It'll be from, my organs will be from the same donor. And basically the way the surgery works is, here I'm going to show them where the scars will be. For the lungs, Duke does the incision is like this. And then for the liver, it'll be like this. So it'll be 2 separate incisions during the same surgery. Each surgery can take 6 to 10 hours each, but they do some of the time at the same. I've heard that it can be a 16 to 20 hour surgery. I've heard it can be a lot shorter than that. I think a lot of it just depends on the patient. And he looked at my CAT scan of my lungs. He said, so looking from a lung transplant standpoint, he said that my anatomy, like within where my lungs are, he didn't see anything overly concerning, so that should be a straightforward lung transplant, and then the liver should be a pretty straightforward liver transplant. Put together, of course there's increased risk, but again, like we said, and what we really feel is this confidence in their confidence.
Yeah.
And we're grateful for that.
And I think I'll just say here, and we're gonna have a video after this week of kind of recapping our takeaways. So these are kind of just our thoughts as we've walked through the week, but I will say that everyone was on the same page. This surgeon, the pulmonologist, the liver team, everybody was on the same page that we hope that this can be down the road a future, like we're making plans now, well, not really plans, but doing groundwork now so that if and when Mary's lungs get to the point of needing transplant, we have a plan in place, we have a care team in place, and so everybody was on the same page about that, and they were all just super affirming that now's the time to get these details figured out. But we're hoping that this medication, hopefully coming out in the next few months, can give Mary's lungs a boost, but there's so many unknowns, and that's why it's good to get these things figured out. But we are so thankful just to walk through the week, be on the same page, and have some amazing people at Duke.
One of the things that was, so of course that first bit of information, yes, you do in fact need a double lung and liver transplant when the time comes. The second piece of information that will take a little bit of a shift from what we originally thought. Kind of toward the end of our meeting with the cardiothoracic surgeon, I was like, so here's my understanding. I'm going to try this new Vertex drug whenever it comes out for compassionate use, and hopefully that will give me a boost and we can delay transplant as long as possible, and we can wait as long as possible to do this. And he really graciously said, if we were just talking about a lung transplant here, I would agree with that statement completely. Because we're talking about a multivisceral transplant, we're gonna need to be real thoughtful about the window in which we're able to do this. You may have heard it said about lung transplant that you have to be sick enough to need it, but healthy enough to survive it. That also goes for multi-organ transplants, except with a liver and lung transplant, they transplant the liver first during the surgery. So that means my lungs need to be strong enough to survive a liver transplant. There's also...
And the whole body in general. Like all the body systems and all of that. Basically, he was telling us in that moment, we don't want to wait till your body's not strong enough. Yeah, he was basically saying, let's shift that idea of waiting to the very last, you know, waiting till the last minute, like holding off as long as possible.
As long as possible. Instead of that, let's shift it a little and say, as a team, we're going to look at my body as a whole and say, when is my best chance for survival through the surgery and the best chance for a good outcome after the surgery? And that may mean doing it a little bit earlier than just a lung transplant because of the extra added risks. Now, in a way that was, I think it'll take me a little bit of time to embrace that reality that I can't wait as long as I had originally hoped, but I totally agree and trust his expertise on good outcomes. And so obviously we need my lungs to be strong enough, we need my body to be strong enough.
This will be a continued conversation between her CF team, this transplant team, us, in figuring out when that window would be, and it's a journey. There's no like perfect calculations
Right.
in the midst of all of this, and I think
Since there isn't going to be a perfect, like, there's not a number that we're waiting for that to determine that perfect window. The way that this surgeon articulated kind of my window is going to be, he said, your FEV1, which is that number, that lung function number that we often use to determine where I'm at in my health and CF in general, the FEV1 is not going to be our driving factor for the window. He said for my body, it's going to be more infection related. How often are my lung infections? How often am I needing IVs? Am I able to stay off IVs for a certain amount of weeks? Because I have to be healthy enough, but at the same time, we don't want to do it now when I'm fine. I appreciated that I was able to learn from him. We're not looking for a specific number, and I appreciated that because I know that in the CF world, things aren't black and white. Oh, when you hit this number, you need a transplant. Oh, when you hit this number, you go on oxygen. Like, things are not all black and white. Things are a little gray. Things are different for different patients and that sort of thing. And so his articulation of kind of this window that we're looking for was really helpful.
Yeah, in many ways we walked away from that meeting so thankful, but there was a little bit of me that walked away from that meeting feeling a little overwhelmed by the
ambiguity,
the complications
Yeah.
of liver and lung, and the transplant's not a cure. It's a treatment option when nothing else is working.
Right.
And to start to think about needing to take that step a little earlier than we perhaps once thought about is a big shift.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was kind of like a capstone to the week as we met with him and talked through these things.
And like for me, one of the overwhelming parts, I appreciated that he told us about, like, you know, that whole window and when we're gonna figure out, but there is so much ambiguity within that. And he made it sound like this is just going to be an ongoing conversation, and we're going to take a lot of things into consideration when we think about your window. But in some ways, I wish it was just a number. Okay, when I hit this number, then we know. It's not going to be like that necessarily. And so, but that's how life is. We wish that there was a perfect set of instructions, formula.
Yeah.
And we wish that for CF life, oh, if I do this much vest, this many meds, I'll be okay. But that's not how it is. But I totally agree with you that that shift in timing and that shift in thinking about when my window will be, it was and is, and I think will become more real in the future. So for now, it's kind of in the future, we're gonna need to do transplant a little earlier than we anticipated. But as we get closer to that time, I think that's when the reality of it's gonna set in more. For now, I'm like, yay, we made it through the week. I've got my summary clothes on. We're gonna go do summary things. But as we get closer to that, it's gonna take more processing. That bird's gonna go in our birdhouse.
Yeah, I think they have a nest in there. The simple joys that, we're soaking up and enjoying. And after that meeting with the cardiothoracic surgeon, we had a meeting with a psychologist. It's a transplant psychologist that we're thankful they have that specialty and approach to processing all that goes into the whole, like, there is a huge mental and emotional dimension to transplant. And so we went to that meeting, and then that actually wrapped up day 4 of transplant evaluation.
At a few different meetings, they said transplant is 50% physical, like your body and getting new lungs and getting new organs, and 50% mental. And because they recognize that, that's why they have this psychology team on board as well. And you guys know that my sister had a double lung transplant 8.5 years ago. When she saw that they had a transplant psychology team, she was like, that is awesome. That's so necessary. And so I was glad to get that little like reminder. Okay, this is a very important part of it. And there were tears during that meeting, and processed a lot of different things with the psychologist, and it was helpful. And I'm thankful that they really do, they get it more than I do, how intricate and mental the transplant process is. So that was day 4 of transplant eval week.